Before we begin, I want you to do one thing for me. Turn off the lights. Make sure you're alone. What you're about to hear was never meant to reach the public. It was a recovered recording, a personal confession from a former state employee who disappeared in 2004. The following story was found in fragments pieced together from corrupted audio files and unmarked government reports. If you choose to listen, do so carefully, because once you know, you can't unknow. This is the Red Lilies. I've never really believed in stories about government conspiracies or secret agencies. Not until I became one of them. And now, I can't tell what's worse, the things we covered up, or the things we accidentally created. My name isn't important. What matters is that for 8 years, I worked for a small unmarked branch of state government in Wisconsin. A quiet job data analysis, environmental monitoring, the kind of stuff nobody ever notices. The pay wasn't great, but it was steady. I had an apartment, a girlfriend named Sarah, and an orange cat that was probably born with half a brain cell. It was a normal, boring life. At least, that's what I thought. One morning, a man in a grey suit visited our office. No ID badge, no name tag, no smile. He said he worked in conjunction with the federal government and private sector. That's all he said. He asked to speak with our department head, then quietly called 5 of us into a conference room. I still remember how the air felt in that room, heavy, humid, almost humming. He told us that we were being transferred to a special division, something called the Department of Unknown Crisis, or D.U.C for short. We'd be moving up, he said. A new office, better funding, new equipment. The man's voice was calm, but his eyes never blinked. He said the work would be highly sensitive. That was September of 1998. Sarah didn't want to move north to Superior with me. She said she couldn't leave the city. She kept the cat. I left everything else behind. Our new office was small, a repurposed warehouse near the lake, cold even in September. No signs, no visitors, no phone lines. We weren't allowed to tell anyone what D.U.C stood for. Not because it was secret, but because no one seemed to know for sure. Someone taped a sign in the lunchroom that read, "Water off a duck's back." It became our motto. Don't ask questions. Let things slide. If something doesn't make sense, let it roll off like water off a duck's back. My team built software that analyzed ecological data reports of strange plants, animals, or other biological anomalies. We used voice recognition to categorize field reports from multiple states: Wisconsin, Minnesota, Michigan, Iowa. At least that's what it looked like on paper. In reality, we were filtering information, scrubbing it before it reached anyone outside. The system we built was called D.U.C. It broke down reports, erased specific details, and assigned probability ratings. If something seemed too unusual, it would be flagged, but no one ever read the original data. Only D.U.C did. At the time, I didn't realize how deliberate that design was. A year later, just before the official D.U.C launch, our department head, Thomas Rubin, a retired sergeant in his 60s, called me into his office. He poured 2 shots of peppermint schnapps. "To a job well done," he said. Then he asked a question I'll never forget. "Do you dream of things you can't explain? Do the shadows move when you're half asleep?" I laughed. "No, sir." "Good," he said. "You're not a haunted man. I can work with that." Then he leaned closer. "Imagine a lighthouse," he said, "and whenever someone thinks about that lighthouse, it lights up. Now imagine that the light attracts ships, smugglers, raiders, warships, all of them drawn to shore. But the shore is closed. So what do we do?" I said. We turn off the lighthouse. He smiled. But you can't, because every time someone remembers it, it turns back on, even you. So we don't just turn it off. We make people forget it exists. That, he said, was what the D.U.C did. We turned off the lighthouses. Thomas told me about invasive ecological agents. They weren't normal species. They didn't spread through roots or spores. They spread through awareness. If you knew too much about them, their name, color, shape, you'd invite them into your world. He gave an example, a red lily. You couldn't just know it was red or that it was a lily. You had to know both, the full concept. Once that mental image was formed, the thing would start to manifest. Not instantly, but gradually, appearing more and more until it became real. The D.U.C had one mission: to erase these ideas before they could spread. To turn off every lighthouse before anyone noticed the ships it drew in. To protect agents in the field, we developed the Blur Guard, a headset that blurred vision, muted color, and filtered sound. It reduced everything to vague shapes, keeping the wearer safe from forming complete mental images. The system would highlight the location of an invasive object with a green light. That's how they found and removed them safely. At least, that's how it was supposed to work. By the summer of 2004, I was leading part of the software team. We had improved D.U.C and Blur Guard to near perfection. Agents could now locate anomalies in low light thanks to a new camera attachment. One night, I took the prototype home. It was past midnight, the apartment was quiet, and I decided to test it. I turned off the lights and put the headset on. The camera light activated automatically. Everything looked washed out, dull gray shapes and fuzzy outlines. Then I saw it. A faint green marker flickered in front of me. The system had detected an anomaly right in my living room. Through the blur, I could just make out a tall shape in the corner leaves, petals of flower I'd owned for years. My favorite houseplant. It was a red lily. And in that moment, I knew. I had connected the image, the color, the name. I couldn't unknow it. I had just turned on the lighthouse. I ripped the plant out by the roots and shoved it into the garbage disposal. It screamed. I don't care if you believe me, it screamed. A high human sound, like a child in pain. Then silence. My phone rang. It was Thomas. "We got a D.U.C alert from your headset," he said. "Stay put. Field team's on the way." I panicked. I tore open the trash, flushed the dirt, wiped the counter. But when I turned back there, it was again. Another red lily, blooming fresh in the same pot. You can't unlearn something. Once it's in your head, it's there forever. And the more you try not to think about it, the more you do. Outside my window, I noticed the community garden behind the building. It was full of them. Dozens, hundreds. I called my landlord Jerry, trying to sound calm. He said, "Oh, the red lilies. They've been there for years. 8 or 9, maybe." I hung up, shaking. This wasn't a coincidence. They'd always been there. Or maybe I'd just made them real. 15 minutes later, 3 D.U.C field agents arrived as Stevens, Young, and Owens. I knew them all. We'd worked together on training simulations. I met them outside by the garden. I tried to act normal. "Rough night?" Estevez asked. "Yeah," I said, "just testing the equipment." They nodded, put on their blur guards, and went upstairs to check my apartment. I waited outside, pacing, trying to focus on anything except the lilies. Minutes passed, then half an hour. Too quiet. I went up. The moment I opened the door, a thick metallic smell hit me. Iron and something sweet. I turned on the light. Blood everywhere. dripping from the ceiling, smeared across the walls. Pieces of the agents' arms, legs, torsos torn apart and scattered like they'd been thrown by something enormous. And in the window, sitting in a clean, brand new pot, was another red lily. I stepped into the bathroom. There were 3 heads piled in the shower. Estevez, Young, Owens, and one more, Sarah, my girlfriend. I stared at the mirror. My reflection was gone, just a whole black human-shaped staring back. It tilted its head when I did. And then it whispered, "Hello." Thomas once told me that if you ever see one of them, it's already too late. The red lilies are just the beacon. They call something else, something that comes through after the light turns on. I was the source now, the lighthouse keeper. I couldn't destroy myself, because that would trigger a containment event. If Thomas believed I was dead, he'd level the entire block. But if I could make it look like a protocol failure, maybe he'd settle for quarantine. I ran. 2 more government cars arrived as I slipped out through the fire escape. If they found me, they'd silence me permanently. Talking was a danger now. Even describing what I'd seen could trigger another outbreak. I got to my car and drove. The highway was empty dark, except for the red lights in the distance. They weren't brake lights. They were lilies growing through cracks in the asphalt. I called Thomas. He answered on the first ring. His voice sounded tired. "Tell me everything," he said. I hesitated. "I can't. If I describe it, it spreads. Then tell me what you can." I saw something. It killed them. It knows me. It followed me. There was silence. Then Thomas whispered, "You're contaminated." I could hear him getting into a car. "We'll bring you in. Don't talk to anyone. Don't look at anyone." I threw my phone out the window. I drove for almost an hour. I must have been swerving because I saw flashing lights behind me. A police cruiser, 2 officers. I pulled over. They asked for my license. I couldn't look at them. I just kept repeating, "There's something in the car. Please step back." The male officer leaned in. "Sir, have you been drinking tonight?" That's when I saw it. A single red lily growing through the crack in the pavement by his boot. "Please," I whispered. "Don't look at it." He frowned. "What are you?" The streetlight flickered. Then I heard it, the same voice, close familiar. "Hello?" The scream that followed didn't sound human. Gunshots, bone snapping, and then silence. I didn't look. I got in the car, my hands slick with blood, and drove. They told us the D.U.C had 2 containment sites, one in Minnesota, one in West Virginia. I don't remember how I got there, but I ended up in a small rural town in northern Minnesota. It felt abandoned, yet alive. The air buzzed faintly like static. Every house had a pot of red lilies on the porch. Every window, every garden, every logo, red lilies. I'd seen this symbol before, buried in our archives. We thought it was folklore. It wasn't. This town wasn't on any map. It had been scrubbed decades ago. Now it was a nest, a sanctuary for everything the D.U.C had tried to erase. I stayed here. I don't know how long it's been, months, years maybe. They don't attack me anymore. They just watch. I think they know I'm one of them now. I've tried reaching out to Thomas, to anyone at the department. Every message gets blocked. I think they've sealed this place completely. A silent quarantine. If this message somehow gets through, if you're hearing this on some archive or on a channel you weren't supposed to find, don't think about the red lilies. Don't try to picture them. Don't Google them. Don't draw them. Because if you imagine them clearly enough, they'll start appearing around you too. On your desk, outside your window, in the cracks of the sidewalk. And once they do, you'll hear the voice, soft, patient, waiting for you to notice. Hello, turn off the lighthouse. And whatever you do, don't look back. If you're still here, maybe you understand now why some things are better left forgotten. Every time this story is told, it spreads a little further. Every person who imagines the red lilies becomes part of the pattern. So if you notice something red outside your window tonight, don't open the blinds. Don't try to look. Just whisper to yourself. Turn off the lighthouse. Thank you for listening. This has been NightLore. Sleep lightly and try not to think about the lilies.